It's time for Dads Making a Difference, powered by First Things First. This transformative show will help you learn how to handle the stress of fatherhood, how to better relate to your child, navigate the child support system, and all things that come with being a dad. With your hosts, Reggie Madison and James Frankie Woods.
According to the U.S. Census, 18.4 million children live without a biological father, step, or adoptive father in the home. And we know when dads aren't present, stats show the effects on the kids. They're more likely to drop out of school, commit suicide, use illegal drugs, be incarcerated, all of that. And so, and it happens when, you know, they're with a wife, a girlfriend, romantic partner, they divorce, they break up. And statistics show when that happens within 2 years, dad is likely out of the picture, not spending quality time with their kid. And often that happens because dads do not know their legal rights. It feels like mom has all the rights. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. It feels like they have the leverage. They feel like they have the power. And for guys, that battle becomes an uphill battle. Most people listening to this know a dad at some point who has said something like, she only lets me see the kids when she wants to. Mm-hmm. Or the courts believe everything she tells them, and I know she over there lying. We've heard the stories, and so today our guest is here to help us understand the rights that non-custodial fathers have and how they can obtain those rights, and of course, why it's so important. And so welcome to the stage, a man of faith, a husband, a father, an attorney. He's worked in the Tennessee legislature. He's a staunch advocate in the community for fathers, attorney Micah Guster.
My man.
Welcome to the show, man.
My man.
Glad to be here.
Man, he sure know how to do it. Hey, he can introduce you. You hear me?
He can.
He can make you feel like you on cloud 37, bro. I'm telling you, man. Man, we thank you for coming, though, my man.
Cloud 9 times 4 plus 1.
Yeah, all of that.
Tell us a little about you. Tell us your story, who you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
So I'm attorney Micah Guster, live and practice here in the local Tennessee and Georgia area, born and raised here in Chattanooga, went to Macaulay. Graduated more than 20 years ago, went to Tennessee State University, graduated from there with honors, then went to the University of Arkansas and graduated from there. Then from there I went to the Department of Justice to work there for about 3 years or so in what's effectively their bankruptcy unit during the Great Recession. And then I left there, and I've been back in Chattanooga now for more than 10 years in private practice.
Cool. Tell us your daddy story.
As personally as a dad or my dad?
Your dad.
Oh, well, there's so many. First, let me say this because I want to make a very, very good recording of this. I love my dad, love my father.
Gotcha.
I will say the greatest man that I've ever known in my life. There's just no doubt about that. I love my dad to death. And I think my greatest dad story is not even great. I mean, it's just me and him out there just playing basketball together, right? I mean, it's just spending that time. It's me looking up when I went to Macaulay, and my dad would just come in, and I'd be there, you know, playing games or sports or whatever, and my dad would just pick me up, and you know, we'd just go home. Like it was nothing really that was in particular, you know, something fabulous or amazing that he, you know, saved me from a flaming car, you know, that had been in an accident. The one that stands out in my mind the most is when I was riding my bike down a hill at a very high rate of speed and I fell off, and I've still got the scar to this day. But, you know, my dad picked me up and carried me back home, and my sister was there, and we, you know, pushed my bike back to the house. And that's kind of maybe the most glaring memory. But it's just really always that fatherly consistency, that caring, loving atmosphere, that care, that strong hand that I think you need, you know, as a man to be able to grow up and be what you need to be. And there's just something about Ron Guster that is just, you know, different than all the other men that I've met in my life. Not to say that I haven't met great people. I think Reg, I think you're fine. I love James. I mean, I think all you guys are great and fine, you know, but it's just something about having your dad there in your life on a consistent, regular basis to provide all the things that you need. Another distinct memory I have of my father is him just going out and working during the summers doing paint jobs when he wasn't working in the school system, and the work that my dad's done, around town too as well with other projects that he's been a part of. So it's just a global state of consistency and stability and goodness that I think is just very integral to my life right now.
Good stuff, man. So let me ask you this question. What is the hardest thing to get fathers to understand that help is out there?
I mean, I think for dads, it's just the disappointment of being dad, right? So like there's this feeling that goes into it. We call it morale a lot, where you feel like you've been beat up, right? And you don't want to try anymore. And so I think for a lot of men, the thought of getting nicked and getting hit and getting just maybe messed over in the system or with your life in general, gives you this aspect, this thought that I want to give up. And so I know for you guys, both of you guys, what you guys do with your, I'm going to call it ministry. I know it's a 13-week program, but it feels like ministry to me. What you guys do with your work is you, in essence, take these guys and take them through the ringer. I would call it the sanctification process of fatherhood. And you treat them like the dads that they should be, And so I think for men, that's the toughest part, to think of what you should be. One of my current Bible studies is Gideon, this mighty man of valor, right? But he's like cowering in a wine press somewhere. But that's what's said to him in the Bible, right? And I think that's how you guys think of the men that you guys come across, right? You see them as mighty men of valor, not who they are, at the week one beginning of the program, but who they will be. And I know we've got people that we've all, collectively worked with. I'll just mention the first letter of one of their names, M. I know I know the work that you guys have done with him, and myself included, is just incredible to get M where he is now. And that's an incredible amount of work. So I think, to really answer the question, it's just getting guys to where they should be, right? Like the thought, even in your own personal story, James, the thought of where I am now versus where I'll be in the future are just two completely and totally different, not congruent, almost not even parallel thoughts. They're not even on the same track. They're probably poles, polar opposites. And so to get somebody from the North Pole to the South Pole, or from east to west, successfully, I think takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. And so that's why I want to thank you guys for what you guys have done with your program to try to get dads not just making a difference, but being different too as well.
Well, so you said, we've both heard, I feel like I hear it on a weekly basis, that one dad will say, I'm just ready to give up, for a lot of different reasons. What are some of the things that you've seen that gets dads to that brink, that has them ready to just be like, man, I ain't seeing my kids shouldn't be this hard?
I think it's just help and support. And I forget one of your classes. I'm sorry about that, Reggie, but it's something that you talked about, how women and ladies should be in our lives. And I wish I could remember the details and the role that, a father should have, around their children. And, I think that you really, when you take that away, I think you just suck the oxygen, right? Like out of a man, right? Like if you're created to be a certain way, and then all of a sudden, like that thing is taken away, right? Well, you're like already failing in your creation, right? Like if I created a car to ride on 4 tires and 2 of them are gone, right? Like how far is this ride, gonna go along? It's not gonna go that far. And so I think for a lot of guys, the difficult part is just putting the tires back on. And so, yeah, of course I want to give up, because it's like, man, I'm running on 2 tires right here, right? I'm supposed to have, it's a V8 and it's and two of the spark plugs are missing, right? So the engine's not firing on our cylinders. And so I think it's natural for guys to want to give up and go through that process. And in some respects, it's because they don't know, what they're doing or how to do. And I think that also that continues that whole giving up process because they don't know how to put the wheels back on or how to put the spark plugs back in.
Man, you say so much, man, and I always like to say, just thank you for the knowledge and for what you're giving us. But what, from a legal standpoint, not legal standpoint, why is it hard for men in society to get ahead sometimes?
I mean, I think there's just a distrust, a mental distrust of the legal system. I think, and you could even argue rightly so, right? Because there's some people who have deserved what they've gotten, and there's some people who have not deserved what they've gotten. And so when you have stories like that, floating around the community, plus the legal process can be expensive and costly. And if you look at it, from one side of the ledger, a lot of times, depending on what system you're in, there's always someone who's at no cost sitting on the other side of the courtroom for you, and you're not paying them any money, but someone else is getting represented, or someone else's interest is getting represented for free, and then you're having to sit there and you don't either have enough money or have enough resources to fight back this skilled litigator who's on the other side. I mean, I think that aspect too as well, takes some wind out of people's sails. It's like jumping out of a plane and someone's already on parachute A, and you're just trying to rip on parachute B because your backup parachute, because your A's not working, because their A is just beating the bricks off of you. So you're trying to pull ripcord B, but you're still falling, and then if ripcord B doesn't come out in time or come out in the right way, you're going to hit the ground and splat. And so I think for a lot of folks, just legally, the structure of the practice and the doing of law can make them feel, very, 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 very uncomfortable and just very unworthy and unwanted in the system. And plus, I applied it before too as well. There's just so many bad stories out there floating around, bad and good in the sense of they're not truthful, right? People may be telling them, but they may not either be believed or they may be believed the wrong way. And then people have, of course, their own experiences in the legal system, and that has both a negative and a positive impact too as well. Generally bad news will travel, quicker or sooner than good news. And so I think all that gets out and kind of creates this milieu of unsuccessfulness in the legal system. And it's hard because you're trying to give an unskilled, we call it pro se, someone who represents themselves, pro se operator, a knife, a legal tool to be able to wield in this community. And I know you James, from your experience, learn the legal system. Once you learn it, like you can speak to it. You're comfortable with it and okay. Right. But not knowing it or unlearning it is, or not, or being unlearned in it, it's a powerful process sometimes that can really do a lot of harm, and some may even argue or say the word wrong to some people. And so I think dealing with all those feelings and emotions, both true and genuine, false and misperceptions, and putting that into the legal system and then asking, I want to get a result back out of all this, with my own personal experience or with what I heard my friends or my mom or somebody go through, or what I saw with my own two eyes, right? Like, again, you can argue that's easy to walk away in that scenario. And there's other, factors out there that some may say are not good or not positive and make people not want to go to the system too as well. But learning to operate in this thing can be somewhat difficult or hard to do.
Yeah. It's tough because, you've seen it. Guys walk in that courtroom when they are intimidated, whether it's child support, whether it's shared parenting or custody or whatever. I've always appreciated that you push guys to go for 50-50 shared parenting time. For those that don't know what that means, in a non-custodial situation or a situation where the mom and dad don't live together, then if you go to court, it is so normal that they will give mom most of the time and dads every other weekend. And so many dads just settle for it. And from day one, you come to them, you tell the guys, you should go for 50-50. How did you come to that position?
Well, I mean, I think the statute says that or says so. I mean, there's also some other biological, and I think you've read a lot of good research into that too as well, why it should be so or why it should be the case. I mean, I think my dad is its own case study in of itself. The role that he played in my life and where he got me to and pushing me through things. We put words on paper on a page sometimes, and maybe we don't know, what it means. And so to fall back into the status quo, right, is simply easy, right? But to actually push the envelope or push forward into something that is good and may feel incorrect or wrong or awkward or whatever, that's why you want to be there, right? Because I think, as you've said before, it's your role, it's your job, to stop, I'm paraphrasing here, some, kids from doing something. Right. And I can't remember all the statistics that you quoted before, but there's a lot of good that goes on when dad is there, and so just, again, in the 13-week program that you guys do, teaching men that you make a difference, right? It's not just statutory, right? It's humanity, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's rules, right? And then there's rulers, right? And there's the ruled, right? All these people that are out there, have an impact on you, and you have an impact on them. And your role in the family is to try to have as maximum a positive impact on the people in your world that you can, wherever you find yourself. And so, that's why that's important, right? That's important. The participation of, in this situation, of dad or of the paternal, paternal side helps families and children and kids and communities grow, right? Again, I mean, my opening soliloquy to my dad, I'm not taking anything from my mom. This is a dad's program. But the opening soliloquy to my dad is what's making me be here today as a part of the community, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that it would have been impossible for my mom to do it if she had not been, if he had not been there. But the fact that dad was there makes this possible, right? And again, we can talk about multiple men that we've come across and the change that's happened in their life.
That's good. That's good.
You always got a word for us, brother. Today, I get a chance to say thank you, Micah. Today, we get a chance to say thank you for what you've done for Dads Making a Difference. Thank you for what you've done for our community, and just always having great words. When we talk to you, you've always given us you. You're very vulnerable, and I will never forget those words that you told me, so I live by this now. I told you one day, I said, I wanted to be the bridge in the gap to the community. You said, no, James, you want to be the bridge. And so those words right there is helping me become a better man in this community right now today. So you saw me go to my pains and my struggles, me coming through Dads Make a Difference. So today we want to say thank you, Michael.
Sir.
Today we want to give you your flower.
Man, and I mean, it takes so much. So many people aren't willing to do. People don't realize he has probably, and no one else can ask for this, has probably given thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of free legal advice that many of the guys that we've worked with, often they don't have no clue where that legal advice has come from.
Right.
Because I don't have a law degree. You don't have a law degree, so. And so what do you see that causes men to fail in the process?
I mean, I think a lot of it, it's just heart and don't give up. And so, I mean, I guess I'll go back. I'll give another ode to Dad. I think that's one of the things that Ron Guster and for the most part anybody's good father would teach their son or their child, right? Like don't give up, right? The other part that I think that's really, I think, quite key to this thing too as well is teaching someone to fish, right? Like that is dad's role in the community, if you want to put quotes around it, right, is to teach your son or your daughter how to do certain things, right? To almost be the scientist to the artist in this family, right? So dad gives you the science of life, right? Like, this is how you do X, Y, Z, right? And mom may be more of the artist. How do you making you feel happy and things that perhaps aren't as scientific, but much more emotional and feelings like love and all that kind of stuff. And so, when dad comes in, you're sitting there and you're using him as a knowledge piece, right? But also as a motivator, as a motivation piece too as well, to succeed and move forward and keep on pushing. Because I think most men who are successful know that you cannot quit. You can never give up. I know it's a Winston Churchill speech, right? But it's every day of our life, right? Putting food in the kid's mouth is, a big thing. Make sure the lights are kept on is a big thing. Making sure that your daughters and your sons are protected from all of the wiles of life is a big thing. But then I think when, again, going back to that two-wheel analogy, when one of the wheels is missing, right, the thought is then, well, the opposite of don't ever give up, right, which is just to give up. And so, again, that's where you guys come in and put the wheels back on there, right? Because then guys are like, wait a minute, you got two wheels spinning. Now I've got four wheels spinning. And they're like, I don't have to give up, right? I can actually do this. And even in thinking and implying that comment, I can actually do this, is the thought that they now have knowledge, right? Information like a dad would, right? That in essence, it's dad's putting or pumping into dads, right? Through First Things First and the Dad's Making a Difference program, but you're giving them that fatherly knowledge that perhaps they didn't or did not have or needed before. And I think that's, that whole don't give up mentality, that whole keep pushing forward mindset, right, is one of the biggest things that both affects men for positive or for woe. And I think that's where we have sometimes the biggest problem, with our society or with men in society is it's either give up or don't, right? And so for a lot of guys, it's hard not to give up because they feel like they've got, all this pressure, this much pressure coming at them. And they're just like, man, it's just, as you said earlier, it's just easier to give up. I feel like giving up. And to put mind over matter, right, to put mentality over feeling is sometimes hard to do because your feelings are real. But I think that's where First Things First steps in and comes in and helps guys out with the fact that you don't necessarily have to fight your feelings, or you can fight with your feelings, right?
Yep.
You can really succeed even though you feel a certain way.
Yep. That's don't give up. Like I've heard James tell, I feel like hundreds of guys that vary, and that is pushing forward. Once you get in there, and it can feel like it's overwhelming. It can feel like it's, excuse me, everything is set up against you. But that's the number of guys that have come through that, that you've referred to the program, that you've helped in different ways, that now have 50-50 time, full custody, are involved, are being present, it lets you know it can be done. And sometimes it takes a while. And lots of times people don't realize how long it takes.
Right. That's the biggest thing. Right. That's the biggest takeaway. They want that. And once they feel like they got that quick, then they out of the door.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And on the quick side note of full custody, I mean, I think we've had a lot of guys, come in through the program, and I'm going to use the word learn what to do, and end up getting full custody, of their kids. I mean, my comment, I think you could even argue or say that that's a role for dad, right? Mm-hmm. Like when everything goes awry, right? Like your father, your dad should be there for you, right? Like I was crying going back up the hill with my dad, right? I'd gotten a little bit out of line, was going too fast, right? But dad was just like, it's okay, right? And we've experienced that with lots of men in our lives that have been a part of the program where they come in and they quote unquote swoop in, like a superhero and end up, taking over, and being the quote man of the house. But I think that aspect too as well of, manhood, and some may argue don't giving up, right? Like you have the ability, the power to be a victor in this powerful, what may be seemingly dark situation if you just keep moving ahead. And that's hard for some guys sometimes because, knowledge or feelings can be the block. But if we can get through those feelings, we can give you the right information, the right knowledge, a lot of times, I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of times that's going to help. And I think we've experienced so many men who have been successful. So obviously I'm trying to plug for fathers out there, come to this program and do this, guys. This is going to help you out.
Firstthings.org/DMD.
There you go.
All right, so we're going to shift. We got in a few minutes we got left. We see we get 2 of these questions in. So you're a husband and then a father of just one?
Correct.
All right. How old is your?
Joshua Luke is 6.
All right. And so what is the funnest thing that you and your son?
Wow. I mean, probably the most fun is really just playing sports and spending time together. I think for me, there was a time where I was working, very, very, very hard. And so, now and I say now in the sense of, more of it or more time just to get to spend that time with Joshua Luke. I mean, this past week, we just went out there, hopefully I'll never forget this story. It's Draymond Green and it's perhaps his last game, in the NBA. And, we're watching Steph Curry's on TV and he's getting ready to go for 50. I don't know that at the time. And, Joshua Luke says, well, I want to go play football. And that could perhaps be, somewhat, controversial for a man at that time. But I think it was because of you guys' program. I was trying to sit there and think, who was the person who told me, just spend the time because you'll never get it back. Like these are the memories that your kids remember. And it's probably from my own story, spending time playing basketball with my dad, right? Like it's historic, but Luke's not going to remember, Josh Luke's not going to remember, Draymond Green's potential last game and Steph Curry going for 50. That's just not going to cross his mind, but he's probably going to remember the kites that were out there and me and him playing football, at a church. Down the street. And so, again, that's why I want to thank you guys for, bringing that in there and adding that aspect because, what you're doing, as a dad or as a father is you're making yourself sometimes uncomfortable for your kids and your wants and needs and desires and trying to make sure that they're taken care of.
Wow. That's good stuff. A lot of dads, I'm telling you, there was a time where I would have wait till the game's over.
Your words. It's cool to be a dad.
Yes.
Just be a dad.
Mm-hmm. And I can't remember, I don't know if time to sneak in one more question or.
Nah, I got 30 seconds left. So, I've been appreciative. We have been, what you have done for Dads Making a Difference, what you've done for men to just empower them to know that they have value and they have rights and they should go for them. And then being willing to get in there and help, it is priceless.
Yep.
And so thanks for being a dad.
I know we don't have
a difference.
We don't have a lot of time, but one thing I will tell fathers, remember, this is a long process sometimes for a lot of dads on the legal side. So just remember, and long as in 18 months, I'm just putting a number out there. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, and that doesn't mean don't do it, but just remember, it's sometimes a long process too as well.
Thanks again. Keep making a difference.
There you go.
You've been listening to Dads Making a Difference, powered by First Things First. Join us for our next episode right here